Going Through Reviews, back with another Hong Kong content review, continuing on with the Wong Kar-Wai first time viewing experience. We're at number 4 on his filmography list, this time with Ashes of Time, released by the Artificial Eye Blu-ray edition, released in the UK. This is not part of the glorious Criterion box set edition. This is a separate release. I think maybe Dan 2 owns the rights to this film, so 1 or 2 movies separate to the Criterion that I'm going to be reviewing alongside. But this is a separate UK release, and this is the Redux version of Ashes of Time. Now, there's big history behind this film, as we all know from watching Chungking Express, where that film was made in between production of Ashes of Time, and this film was made as a big kind of, epic Wushu kind of fantasy drama action based movie. Very ambitious, very kind of stylized, very kind of just out there. Wong Kar-Wai, did it deliver? Let's find out. Let's talk about Ashes of Time Redux. Ashes of Time was released in 1994. The original version is kind of lost to the ages now, and he had to reassemble a brand new cut of the film from the kind of leftover remains of the original archive footage, down to a factory fire, I believe, back in the 90s, and he had to reassemble a brand new cut back in 2008 called the Redux version, which is the one that's on the Blu-ray, and it's re-released on DVD and Blu-ray with this brand new cut. And this has different color grading. It has inserts of title cards, more kind of inserts into kind of like some of the characters kind of thing, and kind of separates them a little bit into heroes of the West or kind of thing for heroes of the East, and just kind of gives you an idea of a sense of a time, location, seasons kind of thing, and just gives a little bit more kind of understanding for Western audiences to get behind, because obviously we wouldn't know these stories necessarily, wouldn't know who these hero characters are. The material is based on a series of books, a trilogy of novels, doing his own kind of spin, his own material, his own kind of Wong Kar-Wai style on these kind of classic kind of heroes of the old kind of thing, these old classic tales. As you can imagine, Ashes of Time was a very ambitious project. It was a very big budget movie. It was filming on kind of Hong Kong location, which back then wasn't really like a no-go, because most of the time most Hong Kong movies were filmed in studios or filming in kind of foreign places, to save on budget, save on location. And the fact that they just kind of found the outbacks of these deserts and just kind of going up the hills a little bit and just find different parts and just kind of filming these kind of really war, abandoned, kind of lifeless kind of areas, obviously benefits for the film and to benefits for the story he's trying to go for, but really kind of just ambitious kind of filmmaking, and just really kind of went for it and just kind of found some really fantastic locations for this kind of set piece film. And Ashes of Time, in terms of the scale of the movies that's in before it, unfortunately doesn't hold up and doesn't stack up to the previous 3 movies, and that's a bit of a shame. And I think that's not my own opinion also. I think that's quite universal. I don't think many people are defending this one compared to some of the others. The first 3 initial movies are definitely labeled as classics. A lot of people, Chungking Express is a massive kind of pop culture kind of cult hit movie, that, funny enough though, is a much more in tune version of why we expect from Wong Kar-Wai, more riskier kind of project, more guerrilla style. And the fact he had to film a whole another movie in terms of his frustrations for this film, I can understand why. He must have been banging his head at the goddamn wall all the time making this, because this is so kind of out there. And it's not the case of like this is a film where it's so complicated or it's just so over the top in its sense of its story, or it doesn't have any sense of belonging or where he wants to go with his character. The biggest issues of the film, he just got too indulgent in his own kind of sense of style, and I think he just kind of got lost in what he was trying to make overall. I get the idea he's trying to make, I get the story, I get the idea that there's the additional main character played by Jacky Cheung from Days of Being Wild. He's our main leading character. He's kind of a swordsman, he's an assassin character, hitman for hire, living in a desert, and he comes across multiple different characters along his journey. He's a central main character, and you've got various different characters that come into it. Tony Leung's character comes into it, Brigitte Lin's character come into it, playing a dual role, which is quite interesting. You've got Jacky Cheung also playing a different character as well, and these are all based on kind of old Hong Kong legends throughout different parts of the East West, and and these fall into different seasons, and this is a experimental kind of very much a stylized kind of take on the different seasons and how people react to those seasons, whether it's rain, whether it's the hot scorching sun, or whether it's kind of the wind, kind of thing. There's different, the idea of nature kind of taking back something, and at a primal kind of very raw, going through the emotions, going through some sort of trauma, going through some sort of belonging, or trying to escape from something. The film has a rich collection of characters and actors portraying them, some really great performances, especially by Brigitte Lin, who was also in the Chungking Express. She plays a dual role in the film, and I really liked that story. I think it was really cool, and I think I quite liked what he was trying to say about those kind of the idea of a kind of a man and a woman almost being the same character, and that kind of small little storyline during the portion of the film I think I was really invested with, and I was really enjoying. It's a shame it kind of got didn't get resolved overall. He kind of just moved on, the story just carried on, moved on. And while I didn't mind that necessarily with Chungking Express or something like Days of Being Wild being a bit more kind of looser with its kind of story and diving on different characters, I felt like all those characters were explored. I think with Days of Being Wild, those characters and that the setting, the world was all pre-thought out. It was all established, it was all together, and you can get a lot from that movie, and get a lot from those performances and those kind of arcs. And even though they weren't resolved, you still got a good glimpse into their world. Same with Chungking Express, being in fact there's 4 initial main characters. Even the 2 initial main characters in that film, still felt a sense of purpose. There's a point to what was trying to be made and what was trying to be said during the initial portion of the film. You got Tony Leung's character from the Infernal Affairs series, and obviously from the previous movies. His character is a blind swordsman, someone who is wanting to see cherry blossoms for the one last time, who is going blindsidely and can't see the sun anymore, he can't see his surroundings, and he just has a really fantastic action set moment. And same with Jacky Cheung's character, who has a much more aggressive, fast pace, and he's someone down on his luck, he wants to make a bit of money, and there's some nice kind of like little set stories, little mini stories that happen, and there's an overarching kind of theme throughout the whole film, which is about the idea of regret and kind of and finding your place in the world, finding your place in the film. Is very complex, it's visually stunning, it's a very good looking movie, it's a very kind of artistic film. Definitely went full Wong Kar-Wai in this one, which I do think is a bit of a negative for this type of movie. I do think he was a little too self-indulgent. I do think he was a little too much on the kind of sense of the wonder and the magic of the seasons and nature, and there's definitely elongated shots, and it's very much it's coming across a little bit too much, a little bit for my personal taste, and where I don't mind it necessarily within the initial 3 movies that I watched at this point, because I think there's a style, but there's also great performance, there's also a good story to be told, and I think the style, characters, performances, everything just comes together, music choices, all comes together in these initial 3 movies. This one goes way too hard on those kind of aspects, and it doesn't leave much room for kind of, any kind of wonder or any kind of engagement with as an audience member. The film is very much cold, it's very flat overall in terms of these characters presenting, and one or 2 characters that I did quite enjoy. It was nice to see some good performances from the Wong Kar-Wai regulars, which I did appreciate. I definitely feel like he thought this film was going to launch him into a very big kind of high status kind of blockbuster kind of director, potentially, doing the Wong Kar-Wai style, but giving something audiences which they maybe not have seen up to this point, doing something a bit different. This definitely fits under those kind of ideas of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, which ends up being a lot more commercially successful, and ended up being a lot more kind of international successful as well. Unfortunately, this one's just not very engaging. It's just not very that interesting, and it kind of loses you towards the kind of the second act going into the third act. You kind of go like, what's this film trying to go for? What are you trying to say? I get it. You're doing these little mini sub stories, which is fine. It's good. I don't mind it, but you've got another 40 minutes here, Wong Kar. what's the ultimate point? And you get some good performances still. Maggie Cheung does an extended cameo, which has a fantastic role, fantastic performance. I really like the overarching theme between Jacky Cheung and Maggie Cheung's character. I think there's a really good little story there. It kind of comes a little bit too late for my liking. My thoughts and opinions on Ashes of Time Redux version for the very first time watching. Unfortunately, this one didn't kind of land for me personally. While I do appreciate a lot of what the film was trying to go for, and while I do understand, you know, the idea of the Redux version, and you know, this kind of the choices that were made while making this film, I don't think it delivered. I don't think it ultimately, and what goes against the film ultimately is that I'm spoiled for choice. There is better Wong Kar-Wai movies to watch. Why visit this one when I can revisit some of the main great classics and better movies that he has done already prior or after this film? And that just unfortunately is just a damn shame. So yeah, that's my opinion of Ashes of Time. What are your thoughts and opinions, guys? Please comment down below. What are your thoughts and opinions on the Redux version? Have you seen the original version? Does it make any difference in terms of its kind of overall structure? Lots of your thoughts and opinions, guys. Please comment down below. So in the meantime, I have 3 reviews. So yeah.